of MVP frontrunners leading Minnesota to a 15-point halftime lead, but we welcome you inside of our NBA TV studios for some pretty big-time breaking news. Kyrie Irving headed to Boston to team up with Gordon Hayward, Al Horford, and a pair of youngsters, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Meanwhile, Isaiah Thomas, coming off a career year, goes from Boston to Cleveland to team up with LeBron James. How does this impact the Eastern Conference race? What does this do to the future of LeBron James? We welcome the Czar, Mike Fratello. I'm Jared Greenberg. Had to fly you in special for this big-time breaking news. Coach, this is unbelievable. A deal between the top two teams in the East involving LeBron's biggest nemesis during his career.
A deal unheard of years ago, when you never would have traded a quality player to someone that you're fighting for first place in your conference, a team that you met in the Eastern Conference Finals. Oh, by the way, a team you'll meet opening night come this season. But we're in a different time, a different place. And I think the key thing for both of these teams was they had to worry about taking care of themselves, and each on kind of a little bit different mission or journey. Celtics trying to take over, get that next step into the finals, trying to solidify that starting five, and a team with tremendous depth now overall when you look at the number of all-stars they have in the starting lineup for them. And they had banked all of these first-round picks, which Danny Ainge knew someday it was going to be part of a big deal that took place. So there was enough there to entice the Cavaliers to do this deal. Now, whether you like the one side, Boston, or the other side, the Cavaliers, as far as saying who got the best in this deal, both teams came out with a lot of good things. First of all, Kobe Altman, the new GM for the Cavaliers, was put in a very, very difficult spot. He's in a tough place because LeBron keeps the team dangling out there and will not answer whether he's coming back or not at the end of this season. Potential free agents don't know whether they should come. Guys you might want to trade for say, why would I go there? I'm not going to stay at the end of the year. I'm leaving if LeBron is gone. So all that's playing out. In the meantime, they want to be good, and LeBron wants to be good, and they want to win to try and bring him back again. So he had to deal with all of that going on and still try and get something out of it. So on the surface, you got an all-star for an all-star, a scorer for a scorer, a point guard for point guard, and you got a little bit more in that first-round pick.
Czar, Danny Ainge asked us to be patient for many, many years collecting these assets. Now we can't wait to get to opening night on October 17th in Cleveland between Boston and the Cavs. Asherrod Blakely covers the Boston Celtics for Comcast Sportsnet New England. We bring him in now. Asherrod, we spoke on July 1st when there was disappointment and panic starting to set in Boston that they were holding on too tightly to these assets and not willing to give any of them up for Paul George. Did Danny Ainge choose the right time to give up Brooklyn Nets 2018 first-round pick?
Oh, I don't think there's any question about that. You know, we've gone from panic to pandemonium right now with the way that this has gone down. Kyrie Irving, dynamic player, averaged more than 25 points last season, shot better than 47% from the field. Certainly, you know, the Celtics, they got that legitimate, no-brainer superstar player that they've been coveting. As great as Isaiah Thomas was for the Boston Celtics, and he certainly had a lot to do with their development and growth the last couple of years, Kyrie Irving is a next-level type talent, a guy that can take you from being one of the better teams to being a legitimate, no-questions-asked title contender. And, you know, for the Celtics, for them to be able to do that and not have to give up one of their young, promising prospects, you know, a Jason Tatum or a Jaylen Brown, that for them was a big win. And, yes, they had to give up that Brooklyn pick as part of the deal, but for the Boston Celtics, a couple things you got to remember. One, that's the whole point of having those type of assets so that you could eventually flip them and get a superstar. And number two, they're going to get the Lakers pick from next year, and there's no telling how good that pick is going to be, which it'll probably be a lottery pick as well. So for the Celtics, you know, this deal just made a lot of sense in terms of what it could do for their core right now, which is adding a guy like Kyrie Irving, while not jeopardizing their future guys like Jaylen Brown and Tatum.
Well, up to 7 first-round picks over the next 3 drafts still remaining for Danny Ainge, the asset collector. As we talked about, not willing to give up that for Paul George or maybe Jimmy Butler. But now with 2 years to sell Kyrie Irving on the Boston culture, on the Brad Stevens system, how convinced are they that this is a long-term deal to keep Kyrie with the Celtics?
They're extremely convinced of that. You know, just talking with sources tonight, that was one of the reasons why they were so all in to go after a guy like Kyrie Irving and be willing to give up that Brooklyn pick, which in all likelihood is going to be a top 3, top 4 pick. You don't make that pick if you think a guy that you're acquiring is going to be around for the short haul. And one of the things that I think we have to be mindful of with Kyrie Irving, he's only 25 years old. This guy literally has 2, 3, 4 years before he's at his peak. And when you look at what he's already accomplished in the NBA, there's no question that this guy has a tremendous upside where it wouldn't shock anyone that we're talking about him as a league MVP candidate in another 2 or 3 years. And if you're the Boston Celtics, knowing what it takes to put together a title contender, knowing the kind of players that have to come together and galvanize to make something like that happen, you needed to go out and get a guy like Kyrie Irving, because as good as Isaiah Thomas has been for them, there's just, again, Kyrie is a different level type player than Isaiah Thomas.
I'm going to try and show you my soft side with a straight face here, Sherrod. Any sort of emotional connection that Celtic fans will feel with 3 of their most favorite players over the last several years, with Avery Bradley, Jay Crowder, and Isaiah Thomas, no longer on this team?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, you're talking about 3 guys who have really been absolutely instrumental in this team's ability to go from, 2013, when basically Danny Ainge scorched the earth, got rid of the big 3, and hit the reset button, to where they're in the position they are now, where they're coming off a year where they went to the conference finals and had the best record in the East. All 3 of those guys were integral parts of that success. But Danny Ainge, in that Cleveland series specifically, realized that he needed a difference maker, and not just a guy that was really good. He needed a guy that was special, and Kyrie Irving is that type of player. He's shown that potential throughout his career, and and I hate to keep banging this drum, but the dude is 25 years old, balling like that. That is just not normal.
Right, and alleviating the pressure of having to back up that Brinks truck for Isaiah Thomas next summer. Sherrod Blakely, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was going to say, and that's the other factor. When you're talking about Isaiah Thomas, you're probably looking at a deal next summer in the range of what Kyle Lowry got, 3 years, $100 million. Kyrie Irving, you've got him for, I think it's like 18.9 this year, and then like 20.1 the following year. So at that point, clearly it becomes not only are you getting a player from a talent standpoint helps you, but also from a financial standpoint doesn't deliver as nearly a big a blow as you would have to certainly take if you were to re-sign Isaiah in the summer of 2018.